Great, so welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is all about house hacking and flipping. I'm Carrie Gatto. I own a team, Big Picture Realty. We're a team of Keller Williams Realty in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And my passion is helping regular people like you and me to harness the power of real estate to achieve financial freedom. So whether you're interested in buying a multifamily home or flipping a home, I can answer all of your questions. And by the way, just so you know, the Big Picture Realty is because in my former life, I was a filmmaker. That was my first career. And I loved jumping into other people's visions and making them happen, as a producer. And I see myself doing the same thing in real estate. I like to find out what the client's vision is and help them achieve that. Just wanted to give you a little background there. So I don't know about you, but I love a good life hack. If there's a way to make my life simpler, easier, or just better, I want to know about it. And house hacking is kind of the ultimate life hack, right? It just means reducing your monthly housing expenses by renting out a portion of your home. And that could be just a bedroom, a unit, like an apartment, or multiple units to offset the mortgage and the other housing expenses that you have. And most people know what flipping is, but basically that is buying a home, adding value to it by doing some kind of renovation or updating, and then selling it at a profit. Okay. And what I'm going to do during this webinar, sorry, I think I just have some happening. Yourself now, so everybody can hear.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do in this webinar is I'm going to show you some real life examples from my own personal experience and also that of my clients of people who have house hacked and flipped homes as owner occupants. And I'm going to break down the numbers for you and really explain the benefits of why and how these strategies are so effective, especially for first-time or amateur investors. So, and by the way, if you have questions, feel free to use the chat box, and I'll definitely get to your questions by the end of the webinar. So to start, I'm going to show you, this is my own home that I bought. It's a 2-family, and I bought it back in 2014. So we had been renting a 2-bedroom apartment in Watertown, Mass, with 2 kids at the time who were 1 and 4 years old. And needless to say, we were bursting at the seams. And we knew we wanted to buy a 2-family because this investment would not only be a home for our family, but also the foundation of our family's financial future. So we decided to buy a side-by-side duplex. It was $500,000, and we put 10% down, some of which was from an IRA. And I'll talk more about that later. The monthly payment, including mortgage and taxes, totaled $2,700 a month, and 1 unit was already rented out for $1,700 a month. So our portion was $600 less than our rent had been at the 2-bedroom apartment that we are renting. Of course, we're also responsible for paying the water and the sewer and the home insurance, which combined totals about $441 a month, making our total monthly housing costs after the rental income about $1,441 a month. Still lower than the rent we were paying for our 2-bedroom, which was $1,700 a month. And by the way, we heard after we moved out that our old landlord increased the rent to $2,000 a month for the new renters. And I'm sure it's even more than that today. Now, this particular 2-family was built in 1850, and it was partially renovated when we bought it. The kitchen and the baths were in great condition, but the bedrooms were a mess. So we invested about $25,000 in renovating the bedrooms, did some painting and some landscaping. And here's just a before and after of one of the kids' bedrooms. Okay, and here are the numbers associated with this house hack. So our total monthly expenses were approximately $3,141, but less the rental income, which was $1,700, we were paying $1,441 a month. So that's over here on the left side column, right? Total housing expense down here after the rental income was $1,441. Now, 7 years later, our house appraised for $725, and that represents a 150% increase in 6 years. So this is from 2020, it's probably more now, but that was 150% in 6 years. So that's what 150% increase over what we bought. And then meanwhile, we have increased the rent to keep pace with the market. The rental unit now brings in $2,350 a month, which is just market rent. They go up over time. So our net monthly housing expense is $791. We're able to spend less on our housing and save and invest significantly more every month, which is the whole point of house hacking. And with every monthly payment, we are paying down the mortgage and increasing our equity. So the combination of the debt pay down and appreciation is a double whammy for our equity in the home, which is now around $317,000. The initial $75,000 equity that we put in for the down payment and the renovations has therefore quadrupled over our 7 years of ownership. And that's down here, the return on investment, 400%. That's pretty good, but here's another example. So I don't know where you are in life, but it's never too early and it's never too late to get started in real estate investing. However, the earlier you get started, the better, since the benefits compound over time, just like any other type of investing. So this is a 3-family that my friend bought when he was only 25. And full disclosure, this property does happen to be in Portland, Maine, so prices are a little different there, a little lower than the Boston market. And rents are good. It's a great market. So looking at the numbers, my friend borrowed some money from his parents for the down payment, which he only had to come up with 3.5% of the purchase price because he lived in the property. So that's one of the benefits of house hacking, because you're an owner-occupant, you have access to low down payment programs, FHA programs. Whereas if you don't live in a property, it's going to be a 25% down payment. So he only put down 3.5%, which was $15,225. He borrowed about half of that amount from his parents. And he did some cosmetic updates, kitchens, baths, a few other touch-ups here and there. And because those updates helped increase the property value and the market appreciated, within a couple of years, he had more than 20% equity in the property. He was able to refinance at that point and get rid of the private mortgage insurance, or the PMI, which is something that you'll need to pay if you're putting down less than 20%. He got rid of that. And so at that point, after refinancing, his cash flow looked like this. His cash flow, which is income after all expenses, including debt service or mortgage payment, is $1,000 a month. That's from the 2 units that he's renting, right? And he's living in one, he gets $1,000 a month, meaning he lives for free and has $1,000 a month in his pocket, which is a surplus just from living in his house. So he gets paid for living in his house. The second scenario, which is down here, the potential, represents if he were to move out of the property and rent all 3 units. After all expenses, including property management fees, he would collect $29.50 a month, or almost $36,000 a year. So at that point, he's not house hacking anymore. I'm saying he's going to rent all 3 units and that would be his cash flow. But he is actually planning to do this in the fall. As it happens, he's moving to Colombia for a few years with his wife, who is from there. And the cost of living in Colombia is so much less that they are then financially free. They can live off their rental income at only 30 years old. That's pretty neat. And then over here, the net worth column just shows you how he is building his net worth as well. His property is appreciated through the market and through the updates he did, 160% increase in 6 years. He owes 372 on the property, and therefore his equity is 328. And then because he had built that equity, he was able to get a HELOC or home equity line of credit for $175,000 on the house. That means he's borrowing against his equity in the house. Lots of banks offer this. And he actually used $110,000 of that line of credit to buy 2 additional investment properties. He used them for the down payment. Use that money, that line of credit, for the down payments. He partnered on them. So he does have partners, but those properties have now started cash flowing. And he even has $65,000 left to invest in 1 or 2 more, which he's looking to do. So this goes beyond the house hacking concept, but I think it's a great example of how you can use house hacking as kind of a springboard to launch into more investing. Because you get your foot in the door of the market with that low down payment, right? Over here on the left, he only put 3.5% down, and only 7,000 of that was his own money because he borrowed the half from his parents. And, you know, now he's looking at all this equity and 2 more, so a total of 3 investment properties. Okay, so, well, let me ask real quick, any questions on these numbers? I know that I covered a lot right there. No? Okay. And again, feel free to use the chat box if you think of a question. So as we already discussed, house hacking means you reduce your living expenses and allows you to save and invest much more of your income, putting you on a fast track to building wealth. And you might have already picked up on some of the other benefits of house hacking, but let's review those. So house hacking is a super accessible way to start real estate investing because of the ability to do a lower down payment since you live in the property. When you own or occupy the property, you have access to those government-backed loan products that allow you to put as little as 3.5% or 5% down. And in some cases, that amount is actually not much more than paying first, last, and security deposit on a new rental in this area. So take a look at that. And if you have not purchased a home in the past 3 years, you can borrow up to $10,000 from a traditional IRA for a down payment on a home that you live in without paying a tax penalty, although you will have to pay income tax on the loan. And if you recall, I did that when we purchased our 2-family. If you are married, each spouse can borrow up to $10,000 for a total of $20,000. Borrowing against your 401k may also be an option. The loan proceeds are not subject to income tax or a penalty, and the interest on the loan is paid back into the account. Now, of course, check with your CPA or your financial advisor before making any withdrawals. I am not a CPA or a financial advisor, but I want you to be aware that these options may exist for you. Thirdly, the thing about rents is that they always go up over time, especially in my market, Greater Boston, or around other major cities, they go up fast. However, when you buy a rental property using a fixed mortgage product, your payments stay the same for the duration of the loan, which is typically 30 years. And then, of course, it's paid off, while your rental income and your cash flow steadily increases over time. So like we saw in the examples, you might not see the huge benefits in year 1 or year 2 of owning the property, but you get into like the 5th and 7th year, you start seeing amazing results. It's just like, a farmer planting seeds. You don't expect to reap the full harvest right away. It takes time, but this is a long-term wealth building strategy. It's not necessarily get rich quick, right? It's real estating is for the long term. And then number 4, with every payment, you're increasing your equity and your net worth with someone else's money. Your tenants are literally building your wealth for you. That's why if you have to hustle to get the down payment together, to get started, whether it's from the IRA or borrowing from your parents, where there's a will, there's a way. Once you do, the benefits compound over time. So let's move on to the next success strategy for real estate investing, which is flipping. Essentially, flipping means adding value to a property over and above the expense that you invest into it. You're making 1 + 1 = 3. And in this instance, I'm talking about owner-occupant flipping. So you may have noticed in those examples I showed you that my friend and I we both did some renovations and updates on those homes that we were house hacking, and that added value to those homes. And that meant greater equity, the opportunity to borrow against that equity in the form of a HELOC. But flipping means that you add the value and then you sell. So you get the profit when you sell. This is a flip I actually did in Melrose last year. And it wasn't an owner-occupant flip, but I would show this as an example of kinds of what updates that you're looking to do. You want to look for a home like this that, it hasn't been updated in years, and there's cosmetic updates that can be done to just refresh the space. And a lot of times it might just come down to kitchens, baths, paint, which really are pretty basic. Now this is a condo that clients of mine purchased as a foreclosure back in 2012. It was their first home. So again, they used the low down payment. They were living in it, and their purchase price is $145,000. Believe it or not, this was in East Somerville. So if any of you are familiar with Somerville, wow, that just shows how far Somerville has come in, just about 10 years. So this picture on the right is after they fixed up. I don't have the before pictures because I didn't work with them on the purchase, but I worked with them to sell the condo. But I know they invested about $20,000 into it. That's all they invested. And again, they were able to buy with a low down payment. Since they were living in it, they put 5% down. And they actually did a business deal with their parents. So in exchange for borrowing some of that down payment, which was, only $7,250, they agreed to give them a portion of any profit of when they sold. Okay, so it's a real business deal. They made cosmetic improvements, spending about $20,000. 3 years later, they sold that condo for $270,000. And after cost of sale, down here, $16,000, and the $145,000 is the original purchase price. Their net proceeds were $109,000. Because they put originally $30,000 in, that means their gain was $79,000. And return on investment, or ROI, is the ratio between the investment gain and the cost of the investment. So 79,000 divided by 30,000 gives you 263%. That's a pretty good ROI. And for comparison, according to Dave Ramsey, an extremely good ROI in the stock market is 12% per year. On average, it's about 8%. So because these clients leverage their money by financing 95% of the purchase price, their ROI is much greater than if they had to come up with, the entire purchase price in cash, which is what you have to do in stocks, right? You can't mortgage a stock, you have to bring all the money. That's why the ROIs are so good in real estate. Also, when they sold this property, they bought another property, a single family that they renovated while they lived there. And 5 years later, they sold that, and very handsome profit. I don't have all the numbers on it, but they did really well on it. And a lot of people will do this. They'll repeatedly buy properties that need work, fix them up while they live there for a couple of years, and then sell them. And then they'll roll that equity into the next property. And so it's a great way of accumulating net worth and equity over time. Now, for the best returns, however, you can combine these strategies for an investing 1-2 punch. So these other clients bought a large but undervalued 3-family in Boston, again, with only 5% down. However, they used a 203K renovation loan, which allowed them to roll the cost of their renovation into their mortgage. The purchase price was $320, and the renovation budget was $105 for the rehab, totaling $425. And so the 203K renovation loan product allows you to finance the cost of the purchase and the renovation. So they got the loan on the 425 number. And they put 5% of that down, $21,250, rolling in their closing costs that brought them to $25,000 initial investment. So they financed $404,000. And with that renovation budget of 105, they updated the kitchens, the baths, they de-leaded the whole property, and they installed new heating systems. And then the buyer lived in one of the bedrooms of one of the 3-bedroom units, rented out the 2 other bedrooms in that unit, plus the 2 other units. So it's sort of like an extreme house hacking situation. So all of that meant that the gross yearly rental income was $57,600. After all expenses, their net operating income was $38,400, or $3,200 a month. Their monthly payment was their mortgage payment was only $2,169. So their cash flow was $1,031 a month, or $12,372 a year. So pretty good. Again, that's over $1,000 a month cash flow, and the seller was living there for free. Then 5 years later, 2017, they actually sold this place for $40,000. They still owed $390,000. Cost of sale, almost $32,000. And that meant the profit for that sale was $318,126. So what was their ROI on the sale? Well, you divide what they profited, the $293,000, 126, and I guess I don't know why that's different. Maybe that should be a little higher, but let's say it's around $300,000, and then divide it by what they put into the property initially, which was $25,000. We're talking, 1,100% ROI. Crazy. And so the thing about living in a property while you renovate it, if you live there over 2 years, you get a residential exemption. And that means that you don't pay capital gains on the profit up to $250,000 for a single person, or $500,000 for a married couple. Whereas if you don't live in a property and you flip it, you don't get that exemption. You have to pay a capital gains tax on the entire profit. So benefits of owner-occupant flips. Because you live in the home, you can use FHA loans and therefore need less cash for your down payment. You have access to the 203K renovation loan, an amazing FHA product that is underutilized in my opinion. And it lets you roll the cost of the renovations into the loan. You can accelerate the returns because of the lower down payment. You get higher return on your investment because you're financing the majority of the purchase. And you can avoid capital gains when you live in the property for more than 2 years and not have to pay, a third of the profit to the government in taxes. And a lot of people like that they can make the home the way they like it rather than buying something move-in ready. And that's going to be done to someone else's taste, right? So you get to make the home the way you most like it. And here are some things to consider. Are you going to be living through major construction? And if so, how will that impact your quality of life? I always recommend buying a home that just needs cosmetics, such as fresh paint, refinishing floors, new appliances, stuff like that. So you won't be stuck for weeks living in a construction zone. Actually, my first property was a foreclosed condo that I bought in LA. And we did live through a fairly major renovation. We added a bedroom and we had our first baby. And so I can speak from experience that you probably don't want to do that with a baby. Things not to do. But doing simple updates, cosmetic updates are really what makes the biggest impact on the property value anyway. So look for a home that needs those. And then, of course, having a reliable team of experts is super important, including a realtor and a contractor. Your realtor can give you lots of resources, such as contractors that are reliable. You can get several quotes, attorneys, mortgage people. It's good to know a few different lenders, local ones, and local banks, and also mortgage officers who have access to a variety of different loan programs. And you're going to want to hold for at least 2 years, again, because of a capital gain. So plan on that. In my book, You Can Have It All with Real Estate, I discuss both the house hacking and the flipping strategy in more detail, as well as the BRRRR method. So you can order the book on Amazon as a paperback or for your Kindle. And of course, as a thank you for attending this webinar, I will email you a link to the recording as well as some additional books and other resources, including my upcoming webinars, such as The Millionaire Real Estate Investor on August 31st. If you would like to schedule a private consult, just reply to the email or give me a call at 617-791-4882 anytime, and I'm happy to share my resources, my contacts, and get you going on your path to long-lasting wealth through real estate. Does anyone have any questions at this point? You can unmute yourself or use the chat. Oh, Yvonne is asking, how do today's inflated real estate prices impact strategies? Great question. So I think it makes it even more imperative to look at strategies like this, like the house hacking strategy or the owner-occupant flip. And yes, prices are higher than they've been ever, but also the interest rates are lower than they've ever been. So what really matters when it comes down to it is, what is your payment, right? And the prices and the interest rates kind of balance each other out. So when you look at, for example, if you were renting right now, in 12 months, those rents are going to be higher than they are right now. However, if you lock in a low interest rate for the next 30 years, this year, that's going to be the same next year and the year after that and the year after that. And so you're much better off getting into a house hack, locking in a low rate, indefinitely, and not continuing to pay rent. So that's why these strategies are really great in any market, because it's going to offset your costs. And some of the examples that I showed there today, I understand like the market really boosted some of those appreciation rate, and that may not happen at every time. In the real estate market, there are ups and downs, but still, again, when you are house hacking, you're offsetting what your housing costs. So much better than renting or not having a. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Yvonne.
I have a question, Carrie. To avoid capital gains tax, right?
Right.
For a three-family, if you were to own a three-family and you live in one of the 3 units, do you only the exemption for that unit or for all 3?
That's a great question. Yeah, my understanding is that with a multifamily, there is a prorating that happens. So if you live in one unit and you sell, you would only be able to exempt the portion that you actually resided in. So yes, it would. But again, the CPA.
Let's say 1/3, right? Of the.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been really educational. I appreciate your giving us the presentation today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. It's important to know about this, because it's there's wealth that you can create, you can generate. That if you're not aware of that, it's very it's there, but you have to know about it. You need to take advantage of it, right? So
Right.
So
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and these options are out there and they're available to anybody, if you have the knowledge and the resources to do it. So that's kind of exactly what you're saying. I just want people to be aware of options.
That's right. And it's not really out of reach, really. I mean, I think like 3.5, 5% is not really much compared to what you have.
Right.
Let's say if you were to invest in a McDonald's franchise, for example, you have to come up with like millions of dollars. But here it's just 20 something thousand, 50,000, whatever.
And you have to live somewhere. So why not, make your home also an investment if you can? Because like I was saying, a lot of times a down payment, a 3.5 or 5% down payment is equivalent to or not much more than first last security on an apartment.
That's right.
So, and if you look at the long-term benefits over the 5, 10, 20 years, it's kind of crazy not to invest, to buy a home or invest in a home.
It's true. And it's never too late either.
That's right. No, really isn't. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Carrie, again. Thank you for your time, for your
attending.
It's beautiful. Appreciate that. This is my first time ever on Meetup, by the way.
Oh, great.
Yeah, first time ever. So I said, oh, okay. I'm going to continue to learn, because the more you learn, the more you earn, right?
That's right. The skills pay the bills.
Yes.
So definitely please sign up for the other investing workshops I have, or webinars I have coming up. there's a few more on the roster. The one I mentioned in August, and a few more coming up. So I'll send that out to you guys via email.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Carrie, again.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Mhm.